Hey friends, we're doing this right, right? This is Cheryl Medeiros. This week we are resharing one of my personal favorite episodes and one that I continue to hear myself refer to when we're recording. This one is Despi Mayes, The Big Little Question. If you've already listened to it, I suggest you listen again. I promise you'll get more nuggets. And if this is your first time listening, buckle up. You're going to love it. See you guys next week.
I've done the thing. I've got promoted. I have the good salary. I have the kids and the house and the relationship and all the things that society says are part of the total package. And yet I still feel like something is missing.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford. And this is We're Doing This Right, right? Podcast for the whole woman. Mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Welcome back, friends. We're so happy to have you here.
Hello.
We are so happy to have you here, and we are so excited because we've been really wanting this guest to come on, right?
So welcome, Despi Mayes. How are you?
Hey, I'm great and so happy to be here.
Yes.
We're thrilled to have you. So Despi Mayes is a doer, which speaks my language. Over the last 20 years, she has built museum exhibits, corporate websites, and mobile apps and marketing plans. At her professional core, she's a content creator and a technologist. But her other titles have included beekeeper, board chair, and after-school art teacher. There's no single definition that can pin her down. Her latest project is a book, The Big Little Question, which explores how self-worth, satisfaction, and success are inextricably linked. The book is a toolkit for overwhelmed professional women. Hi, looking at me.
Me too.
Who are ready to stop repeating exhausting cycles and settle into rich, satisfying lives they love. Okay.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks.
I want to just highlight something that I think is really important before we jump right into this. What I love about listening to your bio, Despi, is I feel like very similarly, I've done a million things and you've done a million things. And I think in previous times in society, that's looked at as like bad, right? Or that like you're jumping around or you're not stable or X, Y, and Z. But I mean, I think like when I listen to all of that, I'm like, well, that is really cool. Like amazing that you can use all of your talents in such a different ways, and that you have so much value to bring to people, including like a beekeeper. Like my brain's like, you're the coolest person I've ever met. So I'm super excited to just dive into all of this. So I mean, I know we have a billion questions. Cheryl, where do we even start with this magnificent?
Well, Despi, we read your bio, but tell us who you are.
Yeah. I'm so glad that bio was resonant because I've really been struggling at this point in my career to talk about who I am and what I do in a way that fits into any one category. And recently, I just decided to stop trying. I think that my background is so diverse. And as I'm considering, what do I want to do next? Who do I want to work with? Those kinds of questions. There's not one single answer that is true all the time, right? It's always changing and evolving. And I want to be open to whatever is coming and be present with the people who show up in my life and I connect with. And so this bio and this way of just looking at career and life is new for me, but it really is not new, right? It's just new. My accepting it is new.
Yeah. And I think the more we talk
Nobody puts baby in a box.
Yeah. Nobody puts baby in a corner or a box. But I think what's cool is I'm starting to see that a little bit more. And I feel like I've done a similar evolution where I've tried to like be like, oh no, I know so much about real estate because because I was in construction, in design, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like I had 13 years of a completely different career prior to that. And we shouldn't be hiding those experiences, and we shouldn't be hiding the fact that these are different. I think there's a thread between all of those things and why you've chosen those things. And I really think the more we talk about it, the more we normalize like change and evolution, the more helpful that is to so many people, especially women. I think this is something that hits women in a very deep way because our life changes depending on the stages of life that we're in.
Absolutely. And I think also the definition of who we are is informed so much by the fact that we're women. You know, it certainly isn't the only aspect, right? But it is one that, for better or worse, we have to navigate the pros and the cons of that. And this book, as I was writing it, I had a really amazing accountability partner who is a man who found the topics in my book totally resonant. As I was finishing it and working with my editor, I was really torn because the research I did in writing the book was with women, professional women specifically, who are mid-career, really trying to figure out, hey, what am I going to do next? Or why am I not feeling satisfied and fulfilled by what I'm currently doing? You know, this is everything I thought I wanted, and now what?
Yeah.
And because so much of what I ended up writing about was so specific to the experience of being a woman at work, my editor said, I think you have to lean into that. You know, everyone can get something out of it, but it really is a unique lens to look through.
I am noticing constantly the middle-aged men in my life are so lost. They've achieved. They've done everything they were supposed to do. And they've landed where their target was on, and it's the now what. And I wonder, Despi, I don't know if you have children. I have children. Colleen has children. No. It like maternity leave almost gave me the opportunity to pivot. It was like a very clear, like people at work were even like, well, you're not coming back. You're not going to come back after this. So it was like kind of like a really open door to do that. Or like my husband or maybe someone without children doesn't necessarily get that same opportunity or that same, just chance to do that without people feeling like you're just abandoning or you're quitting or you failed because you left that. Like nobody looks at me and says, Cheryl, you failed commercial insurance and corporate life because you quit. No, they're like, oh, it didn't fit your life anymore. So you made a change. And I think that everybody should be able to take that and do that and run with that. But not everybody gets the same kind of out that some people get.
That's really interesting. When I wrote this book, I interviewed 50 women. We had these hour-long, amazing conversations about life and fulfillment and what that looks like. And so many of them were mothers, and they talked about this duality or this challenge of on the one hand, exactly what you're saying, Cheryl, that the expectations of you at work are definitely in the context of motherhood. And then all the struggles that come with that, you know, feeling like you're not doing enough in either place because you're juggling. A lot of people talked about that. But what I thought was really interesting that seemed universally true is that when I asked people, what is it that you think would make you feel the most fulfilled, the most satisfied or content? The stuff they talked about was, I wish I was taking care of my body. I wish that I was spending time with my kids. I wish that I was pursuing these things that I enjoyed or things I've dreamt about but never have taken the time to do. And when I asked them, and I think for men, this might apply too, right? It's like you go through this achievement path and you check all the boxes. And these women were echoing those very same sentiments. Like, I've done the thing, I've got promoted, I have the good salary, I have the kids and the house and the relationship and all the things that society says are part of the total package. And yet I still feel like something is missing, but they haven't given themselves the permission to really get in touch with what is personally meaningful for them. So when I asked them, what is it? What do you think you should do? Almost unilaterally, people said, oh, I need a different job.
Huh.
And I thought that was such a funny and interesting thing because we tie so much of our satisfaction and our identity into our work, sometimes to a point where we can't see ourselves anymore, and we can become amazing, awesome at work. And that part of us we love, and it's doing the thing. But when we're not at work, we don't really know who we are. And this book was really written for people who are struggling with that feeling of like, I'm killing it at work. I feel I've completed my trajectory for my goals, but now what? How do I, at the end of the day, when I put my head on the pillow at night, feel fulfilled?
So relatable, because you're told from such a young age, right? You go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have children, you do X, Y, and Z, and people are achieving that, I would say, in a span of a life, really early on. You've checked, like you keep saying, like we've said, and I've definitely felt this. And career change has been the thing that I think for me has kept, I don't want to say kept me alive, but like kept my spirit alive, is to be able to change and evolve. But because when you get to a point, like I said, I was in sports medicine for 13 years. I checked all the boxes, and I worked in every level of that, from professional and to middle school. Right. And now I'm like, and now what? Now there's nothing left for me to do. And you feel that so personally, and you feel like you're the only one that's happening to, but you interviewed 100 women, like, and that is pretty universal. And it's so interesting. And I love that you're bringing that to the forefront, or to the conversation, that, like, this is normal, and there's no roadmap. There's an early checklist. We love checklists on this show. There's an early checklist given to us in life, but it ends so abruptly. And then what? Where's the checklist for the rest?
I am watching right now on Max or HBO the 1980s docuseries, just about like all the changes that happened in 1980s, and I am going to point some fingers at 1980 for fucking up a lot of shit in this world.
The 80s were the worst. Like, what the
best and the worst? They were great, but the 1980s was obsessed with money,
credit
and
cards,
wealth, and living big, and all, like, it really kind of set us up for these lifestyles and these like career driven paths. And Princess Diana, rest in peace, like, you did that big princess wedding, and now capitalism around weddings is insane, because everybody saw Princess Diana's weddings, and then that set the norm for what each of us are a princess on our wedding day. And like, there's just so many things that date back to the 80s that I'm like, holy smokes, would you look at that? Anyhow, just been watching this docuseries, and I'm obsessed with it. So, and you can use our endorsement code. We are sponsored by HBO, ladies.
Well, and to that point, I think there was a big push during that time for career women and breaking the glass ceiling. And this is when we talk about latchkey kids. This is when we talk about women going full force into the workforce and trying to be equal. And that equality was clearly not there, obviously, but pushing so hard. And the effect that had, and I don't mean this in a traditional patriarchal way, but the effect that had on children, right? Like, this was the first time, like, other than like during wars and stuff like that, where women were full force with their shoulder pads, walking into boardrooms and really being CEOs on a larger scale, and really being in the workforce. And they're not being a parent at home, and not always being a caretaker at home. And I think that changed who we are, and who, if you're born in the 80s and the 90s, like how you were raised, and how those societal goals were set for you. And we were supposed to be really high achievers, and a lot of us are, and now we've achieved all the things too early. Now we don't, it's like that thing where you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, that's kind of where we're at now, right?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. I like that metaphor. Yeah, it's true. And I think that all that achievement is awesome, right? And women having the option to do whatever they're called to do. I think that the conflict that seemed to come up as I talked to folks was that, yes, I can do anything, but what do I really want to do? You know, it's like I get on the path, and that path is usually related to education and or work and then family, and those things start to intersect, and you have so many roles and identities attached to all those. And then what's left for me from a time standpoint, from an energy standpoint, you know, just having the headspace to really think about, well, who am I at the end of the day outside of all that stuff? And it's important stuff, and it's stuff that matters to us. You know, I'm somebody that is really achievement oriented. I love work. I don't envision myself retiring on a beach somewhere. You know, I want to be working and doing things, but I still think that work has a limit in terms of how it can contribute to my wholeness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the what next, to really answer your question. And what this book is about is, what do you do when you get to that place where you feel like you've checked all the boxes and you're not sure what to do, but you know you need to do something. And so for me, I really went through this journey in a acute way. In 2019, I lost my job, and it was kind of unexpected. And I had been through a ton of other life changes in the year prior. So I'd gotten divorced, I'd moved into my dream little tiny house, and I started dating someone new. And I had this job, and I felt so secure and safe, and I knew who I was and all of that, right? And I lost this job, and then the person I was dating had brain surgery, and it was a really tumultuous time. You know, I didn't know what was going to be next for me, but I knew that I needed to take a minute, and I
Yeah.
couldn't just jump right back into the next thing and keep spinning through the same cycle that I had been doing for my whole life, which is 20 years of really intense careering
Yeah.
and really looking for meaning from work, you know? And so when I started digging in there to figure out what was going to be next for me, how was I going to get in touch with a part of me that felt more solid and more sure, I really started having to look at, how do I know that I matter? And,
Mm.
you know, I wrote a lot about self-worth in this book, and I really was hesitant to, because I felt this reader, this busy, overwhelmed, successful, driven woman reading my book and saying, really, I just need to learn to love myself. Give me a break. You know, like I literally had that.
Relatable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it really is true. I found that for myself, I was using external success as the way in which I got any kind of worthiness, that I felt worthy in any way. And when I had this big fall and everything in my life changed, I realized that it was all temporary. It was all external. And until it could come from the inside, I was never going to be able to really enjoy all that stuff I was chasing. So I went through this process. I started asking myself this question: what would I do if I believed I inherently matter? And this question really helped me figure out, what would I do? Because in the past, I had asked myself, what would I do to get promoted? What would I do to get someone to love me? What would I do to get noticed? What would I do to be successful? But I had never asked, like, internally, what would I do if I believed that I matter? And I don't have to try. I showed up mattering.
Mm-hmm.
How would I change my behavior? You know, and it was a really powerful question.
And
Wow.
yeah. I know. I'm like, what happened? So when you do that, what, like, are you doing that? Like, then what? Then what? I'm like, should we do this? Or like, what are we doing? What happens then? Tell us.
Yeah, so I was like, didn't want to blabber on and on and on, you know?
No, we were literally, this is the first time on the show, both Cheryl and I have been speechless, and we're like waiting for you to like tell us what to do.
Well, when I asked myself this question, the answers I got were comedically simple at first. The first two things I heard when I asked this question, and I just listened for the quiet little voices inside of me to bubble up and ask for something. The answers were, if I believed I mattered, I would do yoga and I would drink green juice. And I know both those things make me sound like Gwyneth Paltrow, and I'm not, that's not where I'm going. But both of those
I love it.
things make me feel amazing. And I, in different parts of my life, had done both of those things in probably unhealthy ways, like too obsessed or whatever. But gentle yoga is so good for my overstimulated body. Like, I am so busy and up, and I don't rest as much as I should rest. And yoga is such a way for me to be active and restful. And I really appreciate that. And green juice is something I use as a travel. Like, when I travel, I feel like green juice is this magical antidote, takes care of jet lag. It keeps your tummy happy. It's like, I don't know, there's just something in it that I think is magical. And I feel like Superwoman when I drink it. But both of these things.
Nutrients is what's in it. It's magical.
Yeah.
You are not the first person
I'm a
to
business
tell us.
major. I didn't do any nutrition classes, but I had to venture a guess. I think the magic potion inside of it is all the nutrients and vitamins.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and
you're
they
right.
must be like absolute crack, because anybody who drinks green juice, like, will tell.
Looking at you, Stephanie Olivero.
We're looking at
We see you.
Stephanie, and I have my friend Jen. Like, people who are green juice people are like
Committed.
It's magical. And where the hell are the rest of us non-green juice drinking people even doing?
I don't know, but I guess I'm making room in my kitchen for a juicer. Okay, keep going, Despi.
So the thing about both of those things is that they were the nagging things that week after week my body was asking for them, and I was just saying, not right now. No, too busy.
I don't have time.
Too busy. Don't have time. I'll do it next week. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll get to it. And eventually, all of those times that we put ourselves off, what we're basically saying to our psyche is, I don't matter. I don't matter. Work matters more. Kids matter more. Husband matters more. Partner matters more, right? It's just like, that's what we're saying over and over. When our mind, our emotions, our body is asking for something and we just don't make time for it, it's just this constant stream of reinforcement that we don't matter as much as all the other things in our lives. So I did these things, and I did them in kind of a ritualistic way, where I got all the ingredients and I cut all the things and I juiced all the parts, and I drank this juice, and I drank this juice with this belief, like, when I believe I matter, I take the time to do this for my body. And like, as I was drinking, it was like medicine, Same with the yoga. I love Yoga with Adrienne. If you don't know Yoga with Adrienne, she's a YouTube. Yeah. She does yoga with.
We are sponsored by Yoga with Adrienne.
Sorry, this is this new thing we're doing where we're getting sponsorships and people don't even know
I like it
yet.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going. Yoga.
I
when you
love
do
it.
your yoga,
Yeah, same thing. So I love Yoga with Adrienne because it's easy, it's accessible, it's on YouTube. She does yoga with her dog Benji, and he's adorable. And so I did the same thing where I did this slow, kind of short yoga flow. I ended up spending 30 minutes that first week on myself. And I felt this little buzz, this little boost of, oh my gosh, I am feeling how much this affects my attitude. And so I did it the next week, and I had the same result. And then I started asking the question in all kinds of situations. If I believed I mattered, how would I respond to this email? How would I show up in this relationship? How would I allow this person to talk to me? How would I respond, And so by looking at everything through that lens, I just started doing this very mindful practice of week after week choosing an action to take. In my book, I call them actions that matter, as basically a scientific method to say, if I keep the promises I make to myself, how does it impact my feeling of worthiness? And in the process, I started discovering all these things that I actually find satisfying, like organizing a messy drawer or, curating an outfit in a really intentional way, or, just like small things that added a lot of satisfaction to my everyday life. And I think when we think about what it takes to actually feel fulfilled or content, we think about those big milestone-driven goals. And that's where we get lost. It's like, if you're always looking for some promotion or some milestone in your life that is going to do it. Those are just so few and far between. We don't reside in the energy of those things very often.
Or to the flip side of that, like if you are somebody who is like a super goal oriented and goal achiever, once you achieve the goal, you're kind of like, well, now what? Now, okay, I guess I need something different. Now like it's a nonstop process where you're like, oh, I have this big goal I'd like to achieve. Oh, okay,
Yes.
I achieved it. Shit. Now I have to do something else, which is very interesting. But the other thing that I really love that I'm hearing you say, and we've talked about self-care and we've talked about things like that, but people will be like, self-care is drinking a green juice and self-care is doing yoga. But what I hear you saying is self-care is having is caring enough about yourself to do those things. It's not the thing, it's not the drinking of the juice, but it's the intention behind why you're drinking the juice, because you matter, because that's important, because you are worthy of taking the time to cut up all your vegetables and put them in the juicer, and worthy to take the time to do the yoga. And I love understanding that a little bit more, and understanding how, because everybody's like, self-care is an eye mask. And it's like, well, maybe self-care isn't the eye mask, but self-care is the, I matter enough, or I'm worthy enough to take the time to do that. And I think that's a really beautiful way to frame it, and to understand and be really intentional with what you're doing. And I just, I'm so like mesmerized by you, and that is like weird to say, but I think that is so cool and so interesting. And I'm like, tell us what's in the book, but also don't tell us, because we obviously all need to read it. Like, it's really.
I'm also mesmerized today, but I have noticed 2024. So end of 2023, I slowed down. I stayed home a lot with the kids. I read a lot. I slept in. I really slowed down. And then coming into 2024, I'm like on fire for all of my goals, but I'm also doing very intentional things like, okay, this is hilarious, but one of my New Year's resolutions is I'm not going to take my phone to the bathroom with me anymore.
How do
Because,
you go to the
and
bathroom then?
here's what I've said to myself, though. I deserve the 30 seconds to a minute to just be here alone and single task and do one thing. Like, I deserve some downtime. And the other day when I hurt my hip, if you follow me on Instagram, I had a fluke hip incident and I could hardly walk. And I came home and I turned the Taylor Swift concert on for the girls because I've been wanting to see it. And I laid down on the bed and I thought to myself, I should get up and get my computer. I can edit an episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, no, you deserve to just lay here. You don't feel your best and you deserve to just lay here and do nothing. And that is what I did. I laid there with my feet up and I did nothing. And it's the part behind it. Like you were saying, Despi, it's like the telling myself that like this action, fine, this action by itself, great, whatever. I got some rest, but telling myself like, I deserve this. I am worthy of just sitting still. I'm still worthwhile to the world if I don't fill every fucking second of my life with a task. So I'm just like hearing this, and it's this revelation that I didn't realize I've been having.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Cool.
grateful for you putting words to it. Okay, you have another thing that you're passionate about that I'm super passionate about too, and it's energy management is the new time management.
This was going to be my question that I was also like holding back and trying not to blurt ever. And so tell us all about energy management versus time management, because I think time management sucks and I don't like it.
Well, I'm one of those people. I live and die by my calendar. If my calendar doesn't tell me where to be, I am not there. So I'm not saying time management isn't a thing, but I know plenty of women who are super organized. They have the planner and the Google Calendar and all the things, and yet they still feel completely depleted at the end of the day. And they're like trying to figure out, why don't I have the energy to brainstorm what's next in my business, think about, where I want to go on vacation, whatever the energy need is, right? And I think it's because we are managing time as though we have an infinite amount of energy. And so we, instead of really thinking about, do I have the capacity emotionally for this thing that I'm about to add to my calendar, we just say, do I have the time? And we do all the creative things we can to plan a calendar that is technically feasible. Like, I can get from this place to this place in this many minutes, so I'm going to cram that in, versus will I actually feel like that? And I was talking with a friend recently about, we were trying to plan a get together, and I said, do you feel like you'll want to do that after you have this really busy week? And she said, oh my gosh, I don't ever think about that.
Yeah.
And it's
No.
that sort of question, like, will I feel like at 5 p.m. taking that extra call when I've had back-to-back calls and I probably still have to pee from lunch? Like, probably not. Like,
Yeah. Girl.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
right.
I keep thinking about these memes I see on Instagram where it's like, I know I said I'd come tonight, but I was younger then when I
Yeah.
agreed to that. And that's like, that's kind of this. It's like, I didn't consider the fact that I won't have any energy left. I have started to do a time block, but for energy, because like after a long weekend, like I'm getting ready to go to Vegas next weekend, and I am going to block half of Monday to just be home and do nothing.
Yes.
And if I want to do something in that time, great. If I wake up and I have the energy to do it, but I'm not going to put that obligation on myself. I'm just going to stop. And the other thing I really want to start doing is stopping scheduling meetings like outside of my house before 10 a.m. Like, I don't want to do that to myself. I want to have time to start my day and like do this morning routine, but like the slow roll.
Right.
100%.
And one other thought, I mean, and this is essentially what you're saying, but like schedule your day around your energy and not your time. And so Colleen and I have talked a lot lately about like at different times in our cycle, like I know that I'm like, I have a headache and I'm dead for like 3 days prior to starting my period. And like, so look at your calendar when you're scheduling, like exactly what you said. Will you have energy for this at that time? Like that should be a filter that we're all running through every appointment right now before we put it on the calendars. Will I have energy at that time? And I'm very quick to be like, oh, yep, okay, I've got a block, exactly like you're describing. Like it's me, I'm that person, but I'm slowly noticing I'm making small shifts in that direction.
And people,
so powerful.
I think
Yes.
this is so interesting. I have a couple thoughts on this. One, we give so much energy to people outside, right? Like people outside of our family unit, basically. And we give them energy and we give them energy and we bring it and we bring the smile, we bring the everything, that by the time I get home, I have to, it is
dig deep.
It is the dig deep. It is the let me sit in my car for 5 minutes in silence so that I can re-energize and walk into the house and bring the energy to my family. But what I love about this concept is like, we don't need to drain everything out every day, all day. And maybe also like your family and yourself, like you deserve to have some energy at the end of the day, or you deserve, like they deserve to have that and you deserve to have that. The other thing I'm thinking about when you were talking, Cheryl, about scheduling and we're talking about time blocking is also like certain people need more energy and certain people suck more energy from you. So maybe it's like being more intentional about how you're scheduling those things. Like if you have a client who you know is going to need a lot of your energy, like maybe you don't schedule 3 of those in a row, or like maybe you don't do 5 meetings back to back to back like I did to myself this morning. I've been sitting in this chair for like almost 3 hours, 3.5 hours straight now. Every single meeting has been amazing and lovely and wonderful, but needed a lot of energy and a lot to give. I think that's cool to start thinking about those things, about how we're energy planning for the future.
I think there's also a lot of ways that you can start small by looking at your calendar and looking at places where you always feel pinched. Like we've all got something in our lives that's a recurring whatever, and when that thing comes up you feel like for some reason, it's great to start there. And how could I feel better about that? I had a coaching client who would get a phone call on her way home from a relative who, kind of to your point, Colleen, was just like required lots of energy.
Yeah.
And so she arrived home from work with her family and felt like she had nothing left to give because she'd given every last drop on that phone call on the way home,
Yeah.
And so it's hard. I think a lot of the conversation, and I talk about this in my book and how you can put this into action, is around boundaries. And we kind of groan, I feel like, sometimes when we think about boundaries because it's uncomfortable and, it definitely requires us to rub up against what other people expect of us and maybe challenge that. But we have to do that if we want to value our actual experience every day and bring the energy we want to bring to all the relationships in our life. We have to take control of that instead of being reactive to it. And that can be a hard thing to do. So the one of the big themes of my book is do it gently. Just ease into it and do it gently. We don't have to tear it all down, burn it all down and start over. We can kind of look for the places where we are in control. We set the boundary, we enforce the boundary, and that is a perfectly sane and safe place to start, because you can affect a lot just on your own, and then you can go to the concentric circle out where you're asking people in your life for different things, right? But there's a lot we can do just with ourselves before we even get to that point and feel a ton better.
Yeah. And I was thinking also, like when I talk to Cheryl, she gives me a lot of energy like that. Those conversations are energizing, right? So it's not that people always suck your energy, but it's like understanding who gives you energy, what gives you energy, and who really sucks the life out of you. Because there are people that do that. And sometimes that's inevitable, right? And sometimes you have to give that energy to people. But we've talked a lot about, like, to your point of doing this slowly, but like kind of eliminating as you can those things or those people that suck your energy, and put yourself in rooms where you're feeling energized when you leave versus, wow, that networking group was really exhausting and I need to sit in silence for 10 minutes before, So I think that is something that's got to be part of the conversation too, is like, who's your circle and who are you with and what are they giving and what are you giving to them as well. I think that's really important.
One of the things on your list that you want to talk about, and this is such like so positive affirmations. It's so hot right now. Okay.
So hot right now.
And what do you believe instead of positive affirmations? Like, what's your belief around this?
Yeah, the opening line of my book is I hate affirmations. And I was so nervous about putting that in print because I know it's a controversial statement. I don't hate them for you. If they work for you, I love them for you. But for me,
this is a hot take, ladies and gentlemen. Hot take.
Wow, this is controversial.
Me, I know. I find that I call bullshit on myself when I try and put a positive affirmation in there that I don't believe. And as I was doing research for the book, there are, we have this built-in like barometer that we're using. I believe that, I don't believe that, I'm going to take that on board or I'm not. And so when I say, some positive affirmation that I don't necessarily believe, but that it's a goal, it's like a place I want to get to, I just shut it down. But when I ask myself a question, and I can allow whatever comes up in response to that question as a valid response, now I can work with something, And so I really believe in action instead of affirmation, because I think that when you take action, like we've been talking about, whether it's protecting your energy, keeping the promises you make to yourself, doing things that intentionally demonstrate that you matter to yourself, that is building the database in the same way that the database has already been built. When you think about how you have come to the things that you know and believe, for the most part, it's like, okay, I learn these things from people I trust or in a formal way. But most of the time, it's my lived experience, and I've gathered a lot of data, and I rely on that data to form my opinions. And so, I personally, for me, it works better to take these incremental actions, see the results, and basically prove it to myself in the process rather than trying to affirm my way there.
Oh, so great. Love that hot take.
I love it. So I more recently will do affirmations, but I was kind of like, oh, bullshit. Like, this is bullshit. Like, and I only choose affirmations that I don't want to say that I know that I believe in, to your point, right? But it's also like, y'all, we can't be out here being like, my affirmation is I weigh 120 pounds, but like, then you're not doing anything to help yourself, right? Like, it's like, you can't will. I hate using a weight related analogy, but it's that same.
Okay, you can't be 7 feet tall. I am 7 feet tall.
But no, I don't think that that's work. I think it's like, how about this? Like, I want to have like really big arm muscles, right? I'm going to will myself. It is something that I can achieve, right? It is achievable, but only if you believe it and only if you take the action to do it, right? I can't just write in my journal, my affirmations journal, like, I have really big arm muscles. Like, great.
Right. I think for me, it was around it. Definitely, I encountered this in a big way. I worked with an intuitive eating coach because I really struggled with all that stuff, weight and diet and health. And I was trying to find a gentle way to work with my body instead of try to do something to it, and I really struggled. She gave me affirmations and I really struggled with them. And in another way, in business, there's so many people out there telling you to just every day, you are a millionaire, you are a boss babe, whatever the thing is. And yeah.
We are sponsored by Boss Babe.
Boss Babes.
Go ahead, keep going.
But, I did not inherently believe those things. And to your point, Colleen, there's a lot of steps in between of getting from where I am now to I'm a millionaire boss babe, and I need action to get me there. And what makes me feel good and bolstered and moving forward is I'm making these incremental commitments and I'm keeping them. I just felt like that was so much more impactful for me.
And that goes along with a lot of the themes that we talk about as far as consistency and persistence, right? Like, same thing, right? Like, if you want to be the millionaire, it's there's a quote, and I don't know who said it, but it's like, persistence beats talent, or consistency beats talent every time. That's the same thing, right? Those are the actions that will win every single time, right? I can hope that I'm going to be a millionaire, but it ends there, right? If it's all just hope.
Well, and that speaks to like the vision boarding and the goal planning and like, okay, great, you did that. Now run every task and every action that you're going to fill your very precious time with when you have the energy and capacity to do it. If you're running it through those filters and making sure those actions and those tasks are moving in the direction of becoming a millionaire, getting the killer arms, being 7 feet tall, then you are like, you've got to run them all through that filter. And if you are writing, like, for the people that are writing down these aspirations and stuff, okay, great. Because that's putting it at the front of your mind in the morning or whenever you're doing it, so that you then hopefully, if you're going to achieve, you're going to run them all through that task, that filter before you do it. Ugh, okay. Despi, what's next? What is next for you, my friend? Because I want to be there.
Tell them about your launch party, especially our local listeners, because we have local Indianapolis listeners and Despi is local. So tell us about your launch party.
Well, there is a launch party on the 23rd, but I think this episode is airing the next day. So,
oh God. Well, the party was great. I had a great time. I loved it. Yeah. It was amazing.
Yeah. So the big little question. Well, yeah, okay. So the launch party for the Big Little Question, if you're in Indianapolis, is happening at Maven Space. If you'd like to attend, I would love to send you an invitation. You can find me on Instagram at Despi Mayes or despimayes.com, and I would be happy to send you an invite. The Big Little Question is available everywhere today on January 24th. Launch day. And the next thing is I am launching an online course called The You Era. And it is really intended to help women. It has a lot of exercises from the book, but lots of extra stuff too. So it will help professional women kind of thinking about, how do I show up for myself as the most amazing, authentic version of myself. So you can check that out at entertheyouera.com and sign up. And there's community associated with that. So I'm really excited about that next chapter and really getting this word out and having the opportunity to be a part of other people's journey and share what I've learned along the way.
Despi, I have never been so happy that somebody got laid off in 2019.
For real, man. Honestly, the real deal. I think everybody needs just like listen to what I'm saying, okay? Because I know what I'm talking about. Everybody just needs to buy the book and then take the course, because Cheryl and I are very, not to be weird, but like we're very magnetic people, and we're very like people are attracted. I am just absolutely mesmerized by you, and I know that that's like such a weird thing to say twice in a row, but I just think that you are so cool and so real and such like, what a cool thing that you're doing.
So much to offer.
Gosh, I am blushing. I don't know if people are seeing this online.
We are now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not caught us on our YouTube channel, we do have a YouTube channel, and we are actually sponsored by YouTube, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
I'm clearly interviewing for ad spots, ladies and gentlemen. So, affiliate codes and Despi, well, thank you so very much. This has been like the most incredible hour of my life. And I wish you the best of luck with your book launch. I have no doubt you're going to be wildly successful, and I can't wait for my signed copy.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you so much to you both for having me. It's been so awesome talking with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Despi.
You're amazing.
All right. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.